Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Hi there. Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Today, our guest is Elizabeth Makatowicz. Did I get it right?
Yes, yay! Good job.
Loyal listeners know that I struggle with names, and I feel like names are really important to get right. So thanks for bearing with me. So Elizabeth is the owner of EP125 Clothing, and her mission is to empower all who embody the divine feminine, regardless of race, religion, creed, past trauma, and body types. Her mission is to tolerate equality in her business and, in her life. She is the artist that created all the paintings in her store during her own personal healing journey. And she hopes that if you try her clothing, that you will feel as stunning as you are. So that's pretty beautiful. So Elizabeth, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, my pleasure. So one thing I like to kind of do early, usually when I'm recording, is, most of our listeners are survivors, and so they connect with other survivors. It helps in their healing journey. What part of your trauma story are you willing to share with us today?
I'm pretty open book. I mean, there's a few things I'm still processing that I'm not ready to share with the world. But in my 20s, I was in a domestic violence relationship. I had never done drugs or anything like that. I drink and smoke pot, whatever. But this man assaulted me to the point my skull was showing, and the head injury was so bad, I started having seizures as a result. So I was no longer a safe caregiver for my daughter, who's 14 months old. I would wake up, after passing out or seizing out for moments at a time and not know how long I was out for. The other thing was the doctors prescribed me opioids, and I found out I was pregnant that day, and I was like, I don't want to get my baby addicted. I don't want to be addicted. Like, this isn't good. And they're like, well, you're on too small of a dose to get addicted. And the amount of pain you're in, it's, making your blood pressure skyrocket. So this could result in a call to Child Protective Services because it's bad for the baby. And, so obviously I took it, and, the abuse got worse. It was a whole lot of sexual assault. He strangled me to the point my windpipe collapsed in on itself. And it was kind of like a bent tube, like a plastic tube. You can straighten it back out, but, it will still fold in on itself. Well, what was happening, it was my throat was literally closing in on itself from the damage. And I would have to chug water to open up my windpipe just to be able to breathe. And I finally went after he assaulted me in public housing. I lost my housing. So I went to Spruce Run, the battered women's shelter in Bangor, Maine, which is now Partners for Peace. They rebranded themselves. They turned me away with 2 beds open. At first they didn't believe me. They said most women come in here crying and upset. And I was in complete shell shock. This man would torture me in the bathroom for hours. He'd have me trapped, and be like, get naked. That's where you're going to die. Put me in the tub so I wouldn't make a mess. And he would literally just psychologically torture me for hours. He'd take knives and act like he was going to stab me. I mean, by the end of it, I was begging him to kill me. Like, I just couldn't take it anymore. And first time I shot up was because he made me. He was like, you're going to do it, and you're going to do it the right way. And I had already taken a beating that day, and I really didn't have any fight left. So that was how I shot up for the first time. And when I went to the battered women's shelter, once they said that, I brought in all my paperwork and the police reports. And then they did a 180 and said that my injuries were so extensive and that my situation was so dangerous that it put the other women in the shelter in danger. The girl that got the bed didn't even get hit. The guy kicked her car. And yes, that's domestic violence, destroying property. But in comparison to my situation where I would have died if I hadn't gone to the hospital, and so I made a deal with my father. If they wouldn't help me, I would sign my kids over because I couldn't take care of them anyway due to the head injury most of the time. And, if he had showed up with the cops, my father would have had to hand my son over. So this was to protect my kids. But in doing that, I lost my health care. I lost any chance for, a voucher. And so basically drug dealers protected me. I could no longer get medication from the doctor. I was self-medicating on the street. I was just falling further and further. And I tried everything, possible to get back on my feet the right way. And I was left with, being so desperate, I turned into a drug dealer. And, 70% of women in prison, before they even go to prison, they have some sort of domestic violence or sexual assault in their background. And these are the criminals in America that are where they're women, victims falling through the cracks of society that is failing them. And then when I went to prison, I got to see all the horrible things that women go through. I mean, my first week at Somerset County, I witnessed an entire pot of women get stripped because they signed up for a razor. And a male sergeant wanted a list of who shaved their vaginas and who didn't. Those that did were punished. I mean, that's what sex traffickers do. You are going to strip women to find out their grooming preferences. And of course, that guy still works there. He's still getting a pension from the taxpayers. I was forced to strip in front of a camera while I was there under duress of being maced and extracted. That's when they come in 12 deep, shock shields, batons, mace, and they use extreme violence on you. They don't care that you're a woman. They don't care that you're triggered and traumatized. They will force you to do these things. And so when I got to Alderson, West Virginia, I filed a PREA against them. That stands for Prison Rape Elimination Act. And this is one of the bills I'm working on because boy, didn't it make me mad. So when they got the results from Somerset County, they wouldn't even allow me to hold it. They read me the results. They admitted to everything I was complaining about, and they deemed it unfounded. In the state of Maine, you cannot have cameras inside of cells where inmates are living. And they do at Somerset County. And they force women to strip in front of them because, a lot of the high-ranking guards are sex offenders. You're predators. Can't call them sex offender because they're not on the list. But yeah, they're predators. And so Alderson wouldn't let me have it. They wouldn't let me read it. And this is how they bury the abuse in prison. They just won't give inmates the paperwork because you have 100 days to file a complaint when you get out. I contacted the Freedom of Information Act. They could not find this complaint that I made. And so when you only have 100 days to file a complaint, first thing they ask, was there an outcry at the time? Where's the paperwork? Did you make a complaint? You know how this goes for anything sexual. And, we're inmates, so we're already deemed trash. We've already been thrown away by society. So people don't care what happens to us. And so they won't give me the paperwork. So I'm pushing for a bill that for every day they stonewall an inmate, they get some financial, fine for what they're doing. They love to uphold the law and enforce it, but they don't want to follow it. And it's like, if you're so innocent, why can't I have my paperwork? If you've acted with such integrity and everything else. And then when I got out of prison, the captain and 4 of his subordinates at Alderson all got convicted and arrested and went to prison for raping and stalking inmates and tampering with PREA evidence. I was not the only one they did it to, and other inmates got it a lot worse. And, this is jails cover for each other. It's one big corrupt network. And, you're probably wondering, why does America have such a high rate of incarceration? We literally make up 25% of the global incarceration population. We have more people in prison than entire continents. And it's all for profit. We worked 40 hours a week for $5.25. If we didn't work, we would get put in the shoe. We would lose our good time, and you want to do something anyway, because sitting there doing nothing is when, your brain slows down from the lack of stimulation and you literally, lose it. So, they're working us 40 hours a week. A hospital saves $350,000 a year contracting their linen to be washed by inmates instead of paying people regular, a minimum wage, not even a living wage, a minimum wage. This is all about a free workforce. There's a reason why all these jails across America have taken out PPP loans during the pandemic to expand their prisons and build on more wings. And now they're criminalizing homelessness. We went from 3 empty houses for every homeless person in this country to 29 empty properties for every homeless person in this country. We could solve this problem overnight, but capitalism says that we have to profit off of everything. And, now they're criminalizing homelessness. So they're adding to their free workforce. These corporations don't want to pay us. And, if we don't do something about it, this is where we're headed. They're going to lock everybody up. They're going to criminalize them. And then they're going to get a free workforce. They have bypassed the slavery laws by doing this. And, I ended up with 3 years. And honestly, if I was a Black woman or a brown woman, I probably would have gotten 5 or 7. The racial oppression in this country is horrible. And that's one thing that prison opened my eyes to, is how bad it really is. I met a handful of women that were sterilized against their will. And this was before Trump filled up the ICE camps with refugees. And you heard about the refugee women getting sterilized against their will. Well, they were doing this to American women. And at some point I realized not a single woman I have met that had been sterilized against their will was white. And now all of a sudden it's a great day for white lives with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. I mean, they are committing genocide right in front of us. We are headed to a very scary place. And, as a woman who has been through what I've been through, it's terrifying to me. I mean, I've every couple months I look up, countries where they accept felons, because I want to get out of here so bad. But, I did find art again in there, and that was really helpful. And I painted murals while I was there. And I got paid $57 a month. I had one of the most high paying jobs in the prison, and I could only use blue. Wow. Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting you to say that.
Yeah, I call it my blue period. So yeah, so that was cool. I mean, they do have some good programs in the feds, but the problem is you have to wait. All the good programs take years to get into. They want to brag, oh, we have a hairdressing program and we have, this program. Well, you have 14 inmates out of, 2,000 that are being put through this program at one time. So you're not helping a lot of people. And, the prison system is just one big money pit. And this is where people's tax dollars are going. So when you get to prison, if you don't have your GED, they put you in the GED. Now you have to give them your high school transcripts to prove that, you've graduated high school, even though it's in your PSI, that you've been to college, that you've, have your doctorate. We had women with their PhDs being forced to take the GED because they get $2,000 for every inmate that's enrolled in the GED. Then they get another $2,000 when, they graduate. And then they'd have the inmates with the PhDs teach the inmates who actually needed the GED, because they could cut corners and not hire teachers that way. I mean, the prison system is just one big money pit, and the suffering of the American people is $1 trillion industry. I mean, from the rehabs to the insurance companies, these institutions have way too much power. They need to be held accountable. We can't keep allowing jails and colleges to keep doing their own investigations. They control the outcome of the investigation. And that's another thing that I'm working on with the state reps. There should be a way that inmates can report something is happening to them without the jail knowing about it. And, but you have to go through the jail to get an investigation. And then the retaliation is real. I mean, they hurt people in there. This is not a joke. This is not, oh, she's being defiant. No, they hurt people in there. If they don't like what you are saying and reporting on them, they will hurt you. I mean, there was this one Somalian woman, they would beat her every day in solitary until she was urinating on herself. And I mean, I watched women die. I've seen, the doctors in there. In Alabama, 60% of prison doctors have a malpractice suit and have lost their license. It is legal for doctors who have lost their medical license to work at prisons and native clinics on native reservations. I mean, that is not okay. This is why so many inmates die of bad medical treatment or lack of. I mean, one girl broke her foot shoveling the snow, and because that was her job. So by the time they brought her to an actual hospital, they had to re-break her leg because the bone had fused back together. That is unnecessary and cruel. And they're not giving us any type of pain medications because we're inmates and we're considered drug addicts. So, it's just horrible what happens. And the juveniles get it even worse. Juvenile and predators flock to juvenile institutions to work. That's one of their favorite places to work. And 98% of predators, aren't on the registry. 98% don't see a jail cell. 96%. 96% don't see a jail cell. Sorry. But the juvenile, when I was at Cumberland County, they would bring juveniles from Long Creek, which was the juvenile detention center in Maine. And every time it was the same story. A little girl would freak out because she was tired of getting raped. One girl stabbed one of the COs with a pencil, and so they brought her with us. She had done 18 months and had 2 weeks left. They told her this on Christmas just to mess with her, that she was going back there. She slit her throat that night. I mean, that was better than going back there. And, and you hear the Republicans talking, oh, we need to put, armed cops in all the schools. Well, you did that. And all you did was lock a bunch of black juvenile children up and send them to juvenile facilities for petty reasons. You took them out of school where they might have, had a better chance, and you sent them to juvenile facilities for profit. One judge just got busted for that. He was getting like $1,000 for every kid he sent to a juvenile center. I mean, this is money.
Well, lots of judges have gotten caught for that.
Yeah. And they need to continue investigating because it's still happening. And these kids are not listened to. They're considered juvenile delinquents. They're dehumanized and called juveniles. These are children. These are kids, and they need help. They don't need to be abused and traumatized. And you can't call it rehabilitation when all you're doing is traumatizing people in there and making them worse.
Yeah. So you have a lot to say about the prison system. It doesn't sound like just Maine, but nationally. So is that from research, or have you been incarcerated in other places?
Well, the feds, there's no federal prison in Maine, so they take you across the country. I mean, I went from Maine to Oklahoma to West Virginia and then Connecticut.
Well, what was the federal charge?
Conspiracy to distribute drugs and illegal substances.
Okay.
I literally got held accountable for the same drugs twice. So I got arrested in the state in 2011, got busted, in a hotel with drugs. And then when the feds picked it up in 2013, they literally held me accountable for those same drugs, from 2011. And so there's really no such thing as double jeopardy with, drug dealers. They will lock you up for the same bust that you've already served time for.
Wow. I don't think I've told you this yet, but I'm also from Maine.
Oh, cool. What part?
Yeah. Well, originally from Fort Fairfield, but I went to the University of Orono in Orono, Maine. So I know Bangor pretty well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I grew up on that campus. My dad taught there. So, yeah.
It's always a small world.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people I know from Maine, they have in their head that Maine is this peaceful, calm state. People often don't believe much about the crime there or about probation systems, the criminal system. So I think your story really opens eyes. I knew a little bit. I dated somebody when I was a teenager who had spent time in a juvenile detention center.
Sorry.
And also one of my friends from my bachelor's program worked in probation for a while. So I've heard some things, but
yeah,
sounds like prisons in Maine are bad. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when I got out, I was on $1,300 of psych meds that I had no way of paying for. So I started like spacing them out. And eventually I started spiraling, and I only made it 6 months on probation. You know, what really turned things around for me was Janet Mills taking over for Paula Page. She expanded main
Oh.
care. So I was able to continue trauma counseling. I was able to get MAT treatment when I needed it. You know, I had resources, and it was just that, you know, bare minimum chance for me that changed it all. And, you know, then I started doing art shows and, you know, working with state representatives. You know, we just got a law passed that mandates all jail facilities provide tampons and pads free of charge for women in Maine. You know, because women will literally make their own tampons and give themselves infections. You know, they get over $100 a day per inmate, but they can't give women tampons. Like, and then you can buy them on commissary, but they jack the price up, you know, 3 times what they cost out here. And again, you're working $5.25. That's most of the jobs pay. And it's just extortion. They profit.
Well, tampons and pads shouldn't be luxury items. Like,
no,
it's
and
crazy.
The game literally becomes go up to the biggest, most masculine male guard and make him feel as uncomfortable as possible, because he will bring more than enough for everybody. You know, I've literally watched female guards say, "Oh, go ahead and bleed on yourselves. What do I care?" Like, they don't. And I'm not going to sit here and try to say all cops are bad, because, you know, for every cop that oppressed me, there was another risking their job trying to make it stop. And that's a problem in itself. So I don't want to, you know, make people think that I am just, oh, all cops are bad and they all deserve to die. No, it's not like that at all.
We have correction officers too.
Problem. Yes, we have a very big problem in this country where sociopathic behavior is, you know, rewarded in law enforcement.
All right. So I would like a minute just to hear about some of the bills that you're working on, like if they're just state or some of them federal, and then maybe more about your healing journey. I know that art has been a piece of that, but I want to know what other things were helpful.
So we just got a bill passed in Maine. These were only bills in Maine that I got passed. There are some that I would like to get passed federally. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. One was the bill about the hygiene products, but in Maine, we have a really bad homeless problem right now. So the landlords were charging these application fees and getting like 10 people a week and getting triple the rent and not actually renting the apartment. So, I mean, you can't find a tenant within 70 people that came to look at your apartment. Like, this is a scam they are doing, and it's just free money to them. I mean, we spent over $1,000 just for them to tell us no. And, you know, we still didn't have a place to live. That was our moving money. And then, so I went to the Maine representatives about this. So they passed a bill in the Tenant Bill of Rights saying that you can only charge an application fee if a lease is signed. And that's fair. Like, you should not be just getting all this free money from application fees and processing fees. I mean, it's like the bank fees, you know, the overdraft fees. I mean, it is just taking money from the people and screwing them over. It doesn't affect the rich.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that should be passed across the board too. But yeah, the one about the institutions and holding them financially accountable for every day they stonewall an inmate, they're working on that one. They're just trying to figure out the best wording so it's not like as messy. Yeah, but I'm actually down south now, so I'm in a more red area, so I think it's going to be a little bit harder to get change down here, but I'm going to try anyway.
Mm-hmm. So you're not in Maine anymore?
No, I'm down south. My fiance got a job, so yeah, we came down here. But for any of you on a healing journey, you know, they talk about talking about your trauma. All that really does is re-traumatize you. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a bad memory and what's actually happening. And so, you know, I would distract myself from, you know, flashbacks and, you know, intrusive thoughts and all that. But there's a type of art called Zentangle, and it's like doodle art. I'm actually making a coloring book right now. So pretty soon I'll have, and I'm going to include all of what I learned about trauma and, you know, all of these little tips for you when it comes out. But basically, you can look it up. Basically, it's just doodling, and it's like meditative doodling. You can do affirmations with it. You can sing while you do it. You can listen to music. Binaural beats also help me a lot. You can go on YouTube, and they're free. It's like sound frequency healing, and I play them while I'm sleeping. So that helps a lot. And I really got into meditation. The Resolve program did help me. I wish I could have taken more of it. But again, you have to wait years to take any decent program in federal prison. So I only got to take the first 2 sections of it. But I think they should have those programs, on the outside. These rehabs they have a 94% failure rate, and it's like they kick people out over petty reasons, and then it's $30,000, no refund, and they just fill that seat. There's a never-ending list of addicts who need to get into rehab, so it's just free money to them. They kick addicts out for petty reasons, and it destroys them. My friend's nephew got kicked out for drinking coffee in the wrong area at the wrong time of day. You wouldn't have those petty rules with cancer patients, but you're going to have them with addicts who are already struggling mentally, just so you can kick them out and get, $30,000.
Yeah,
And
maybe we should say here,
legal.
like what you said with the police officers. There's good and bad police officers. There's good and bad correction officers, and there's also good and bad treatment facilities, right? Because some treatment facilities really do make a difference. They try. Yeah, but you're right about the money piece. The money piece is huge. Yeah. Okay, so if there's anyone out there that's a domestic violence survivor and they're struggling with a decision to do drugs or not, do you have anything inspiring or hopeful for them? Because it's a really dark place.
It is.
What would you suggest?
Don't do it. And be careful with the prescriptions that your doctors give you. They are not informed properly by Big Pharma. Big Pharma is just out for profit. And, when I got out of prison, they had gabapentin. They were handing that out like candy. And it was just another addictive, very addictive, pill that they didn't properly inform me about. But I had already learned my lesson from opiates, so I didn't get hooked on it the way that, I did. But, you just have to, laughter makes the pain go down easier. It really does. And, it took a lot to pull me out of some dark places, but, you can rewire your brain. I know it sounds crazy, but, every night when you go to sleep, just, think, I am joyful, I am happy, I am beautiful, I am moving on, I am healing. You will literally wire your brain to, what you want out of life. And believe me, I know it's hard and it's awful. And if, you are struggling with drugs, I know a lot of single mothers out there. I didn't want to get help because I was scared CPS would take my kids away for good. And, I totally understand, but I think they're a little bit, more empathetic and knowledgeable to addicts now, as long as the kid's not straight up in danger. But yeah, I get it. It's hard. It's really hard. But I created this brand during my own healing journey, and I just wanted to make women that were in my shoes or in my former shoes, to make them feel stunning and beautiful and empowered and, everything they've been told they're not. I got some stuff to show you.
Okay. YouTubers are going to like this.
Yep.
That
and
is gorgeous.
Everything's environmentally friendly, and it comes in plus sizes. And the thing I was so happy about is that, as women, we're told we're only as valuable as we are skinny and pretty. And a lot of these brands make their clothes really, really small. And I remember, I wouldn't have gained weight and I put, stuff on and it wouldn't fit me. And I'd feel really bad about myself because a brand was just making their clothes really, really small. This brand doesn't do that. I got a small and it was actually a little bit big. And I'm thinking, this is perfect. This is not going to, trigger anyone's body dysmorphia issues. And because I would never want to do that. I've never struggled with an eating disorder, but, I've struggled mentally with other stuff. And, I just would never want to be the reason why, someone got triggered that way. That's my Vivian scarf.
Yeah, so podcast listeners, she's showing, hop over to YouTube to see some of her beautiful, gorgeous, unique looking clothing line.
Yeah, and this is my lucky koi fish. Like, I put gold scales in to like draw in abundance and wealth. And, I usually do stuff with numerology and, little stuff like that draws in abundance and happiness. And then, I'm weird. So, one day I'll be like all flowers and butterflies. And then the next day I'll be like super gothic and, just, yeah. And
you're unique.
Yeah. And so the cool part is you can literally get a whole outfit matching, and it shows the painting on the tag. Like, this is from the same painting. So you can get a dress with this print on it. You can get a shirt, you can get pants, you can get a whole matching outfit.
It's gorgeous.
This is a placemat. You can get placemats too.
Mm-hmm.
The lucky koi fish again. Oh, and this is a pillowcase.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I even got little bags, like little makeup bags.
Yeah, you're definitely very talented. As you show things, can you tell people where to find this online?
Yep, it's http://www.legalaries.com/en/elizabeth.mcotowitz.
Okay.
And I'm also on Instagram and TikTok. The handles are the same. It's EPM_art_1111.
Oh, I'm in 1111 Abundance Club. That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's another cowl.
Beautiful. Okay. And how do you want people to reach you? Is your website the easiest?
You don't reach me on the website, but you can order clothes. The easiest way to reach me is probably Instagram.
Okay. So you'll return people's messages and things like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if there's any
questions.
stores out there that would like to carry my brand, I do wholesale, and I would very much like to get this into more shops and boutiques. I just did a workshop on how to get it into like a big retailer chain. So I'm gonna shoot for that eventually, but I got a little more work to do before I'm there yet.
Awesome. Yeah. I really appreciate everything that you shared today, and your work is beautiful, and I think it's inspiring to see how far you've come on your healing journey. So I wish you the best. Please stay in touch. When you publish, please send us the information so we can add it to your show notes.
Yes, I will. I also am in the editing stages of my memoir, and it's proving to be very hard for me, but it's called No Justice, Just Us. And it's an in-depth, detailed journey of what I went through in prison and how I recovered. It's not about my crime, because you can't write about that, apparently. But yeah. If you want to learn more about the prison system and the cruelty and corruption within, definitely check my book out when it drops.
Yeah, I'll add it to the show notes. Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.